My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
Hey gang, welcome back. Today, zooming in from Texas, we've got a very successful up-and-coming real estate entrepreneur and developer and author and podcast host, Nathan Barkocy. Nathan is doing lots of interesting things. He just launched a book with a pretty well-known co-author, Sharon Lechter. If you're familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, she was the co-author with that with Robert Kiyosaki. Some people say she did most of the work. I don't know. We'll ask Nathan about that. So anyhow, Nathan, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Dave, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be with you today.
Yeah, likewise. So Nathan, first things first, I gave you a brief little intro there. Can you give us, kind of fill in the blanks there, what does real estate and real estate investing look like for Nathan Barkocy in 2026?
Absolutely. Great question. So when I got started in real estate, right, I was working with Josh McCallan, who's the owner of Accountable Equity up in New Jersey. I was in college at the time, and I was his assistant. I helped him produce the Capital Hacking podcast, right? I was helping him structure the syndication for his projects. I was helping him structure his business, his podcast, so everything.
Nuts.
And while I was working with him, I asked for his advice on investments, how to move forward with real estate. And it was really, a paid mentorship, if I want to call it that, right? It's really an opportunity that I used not only for the income as an employee, but for the opportunity to grow my understanding in the real estate sector. So I see, I was after all of his advice for real estate investments. And what's funny is the summer between my junior and senior year of college, I was working with him, and he actually told me, Nathan, you need to go start your own business. So he fired me. It really got me there. Right? So deer in the headlights, right, Dave? I was just deer in the headlights, clueless. What am I supposed to do? So I got a job that summer at Home Depot just to make some money, Yeah. But while I was working that job, I also was studying real estate, studying how to start a business, studying how to invest into your first property, studying how to raise capital, studying how to leverage, all the necessary parts, right? And so sure enough, after about a semester of studying and just continual pursuit of excellence in the real estate sector, I did invest into my first multifamily townhome portfolio. And that was, we can dive into the details of that project because it's incredible, but that's what started the ship, right? That was the first domino that just began my career as an investor.
Okay, so what does it look like now, 2026? What does the portfolio consist of? What do you focus on these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So as of now, I still own that townhome portfolio in Fort Worth. I also, it's a long story, all of the different parts that go into that, but it was an improper development. So I had to take over the development for that and restore the property. It was improperly managed with the HOA. So I worked with the other members of the association, and we booted that HOA, and now I'm helping run the HOA.
So you own it and you're running the HOA.
Yes. So
are these all rentals, or are they owner occupied or mix?
There's several that are owner occupied. All of mine are rentals. And the key is that in Fort Worth, you aren't permitted by the city to do short-term rentals like an Airbnb or a VRBO if you're in residential zoning, right? However, if you're in commercial zoning, it is permissible to do so. But even if you're in commercial zoning, right, typically you have an HOA, and the HOA is most likely going to negate your ability to do that, right?
Yeah.
So what's incredible is that my HOA, of course, we offer STR as a short-term rentals as a potential use of the property, and we are in the commercial zoning. So of all of the townhomes in the association, the high majority are short-term rentals. So it's almost like we have running a hotel, right?
Interesting. So yeah, that's a very creative way to get around limitations with with the city, and then with HOAs is own the darn HOA, and then you can make sure to pay the rules.
Listen, Dave, I wouldn't recommend it to most, right? It's really what's happened with these townhomes, especially, is something that I really am excited to convey to all of my mentees, to all of the people that I work with in the future. The way you progress in business and in real estate specifically is, adjusting from each turn that is taken, right? Each mistake that you encounter, each problem that you face, you have to be able to adjust your mindset, adjust your business plan, adjust your thinking so that you can take advantage of each situation. And there's a positive in every situation, right? I mean, obviously with my life story, I was a nationally ranked cyclist and I got hit by a car and died on the scene. So obviously there's a big pivot in that, right? And we can go into detail of that story as well. But there's a lot of times when you hit trials, you hit suffering in some regard, most especially in business, because we've all encountered that. Also in life, right? We all have, whether it be emotional or psychological or familial or relationship based, there's suffering in some regard that we all encounter, right? But instead of using that to hold us back, we need to use it as fuel to launch us forward, and then we adjust as a result of it.
So with this townhome project, how long did it take you to kind of get the whole thing reorganized? Was it fully built out when you got involved, or did you have to finish the actual construction side of things? Like, how long was that whole project?
Yeah. So it was, when I first acquired the properties, it was, marketed to me as new luxury townhomes. That's exactly why I wanted to get into it, Dave, was because if they're brand new, there's not going to be leaky toilets, right? Beautiful. Yeah. Well, woe is me, right? Because all of the toilets were leaky. So it was an improper development, and all of the bathrooms were leaking. And so
the developer probably went bankrupt as soon as he sold it to you, so you couldn't go after him.
You nailed it. And so, I did go after him, and we've obviously he went bankrupt, and that was just a whole story that doesn't have much positivity in it, so I wouldn't want to relay too much information.
Well, you learned a little bit about the legal system and how to finagle your way out of stuff.
Yeah. Become an attorney. There's the number one advice.
That's what I learned from my first divorce.
Yeah. If you take anything away today, there we go.
Yeah.
No. But the property was improperly developed, so we had to adjust, pause rents for my tenants. I had to take out loans to, fix the bathrooms themselves, just work with insurance on all of this. Insurance was fighting me a lot because it was improperly developed, and it was not what you would desire for your first investment property, especially the brand new luxury townhome portfolio, right?
Yeah. So how long did it take to get it turned around? Like, is this a question?
Yeah, it took us several months. I'm very grateful for the team that was running the restoration, right? They did an incredible job, very fast. So they were working every day in and day out. And they were able to get the properties repaired within several months. And I mean, it was fully leased. I've had 100% occupancy since day one that I've owned the property. It's taken a lot to continue to have 100% occupancy. Obviously, a lot of work, but it's an incredible location. What really drove, and this is really key information, right? What drove my investment into this property, and the reason why I'm also starting a development across the street from this property, is the fact that it's in a medical district, right? So there's 8 local hospitals surrounding this location within a 5-mile radius, wow. Right? So with those hospitals, right, there's always job growth, there's job stability, right? There's a heavy infrastructure, so it's right off of these really busy roads in the Fort Worth, the near south side of the Fort Worth.
So are these short-term rentals or mid-term furnished rentals primarily, or both, either or?
Both, yeah. So I do we do short-term rentals, and then there are mid-term rentals as well, and then I lease those out, fully furnished. And then there's great possibility for that because of the fact that it is in a medical district, right? It's 15 minutes from TCU, it's 15 minutes from the stockyards, it's right near downtown, it's right in the near South Side, which is a very walkable district. And so there's a lot of foot traffic, right? A lot of people that travel to the area, whether it's parents coming in for their son's football game at TCU, or whether it be someone who has, their family member in the hospital. There's a lot of traffic in the area. So the underwriting for this made it clear that I wanted to get into this specific location because it was a newly gentrified and rapidly developing area.
Hey there, if you're a capital raiser, a syndicator, or a fund manager, and you're looking for a steady flow of incoming accredited investor leads, then go ahead, grab a free copy of my new book, How to Get 20 Accredited Investor Meetings Every Month Without Cold Calling, Networking, or Chasing People. You can get that at 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com. Again, that's the number 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com.
Very cool. All right. So, yeah, that would keep a guy busy. You say you've got over 30 of these units going as midterm, short-term rentals. Did I understand that correctly?
There's 15 units in the association. Yeah.
Nice. And now you're developing another property across the street. Tell us a little bit about that project.
Yeah, this is a really interesting project. So of this near South Side, right? There's a lot of new developments, like I was saying, but there's one undeveloped block in the entire near South Side, and that block sits across the street from my townhomes. And so I've been looking at it for a long time and putting together ideas. And right now, I'm actually collaborating with several people in the near South Side area. We're going to turn a small portion of the lot into a food truck park. And it's really fun because there's so much walkability. There's a lot of walkable traffic in the area. The walkability is incredible. And so the traffic is going to be able to feed these food trucks that rent the spots from me. Also, it's going to add, if it's a 24/7 park, that gives the night shift workers for the hospitals, right? That gives them an opportunity to go get a lunch break because nowhere else is open at nighttime, right? So I think it's an incredible opportunity, and it's a really fun project, right? You don't hear a lot of people developing of a food truck park, but this is a.
So are you partnering with the current owner, or have you guys gone out and bought this one block?
Yeah, well, so right now, at the day that we're speaking today, I'm under contract for the lot. I will actually be partnering with the owner of the lot because he also is an owner of a restaurant in the near South Side of Fort Worth. And so he has a great understanding of the food industry and especially the necessities for these food trucks in the near South Side. And so I'm under contract for that land right now, and we're moving forward with the development of that project. And it's going to add a lot of character to the area, which is exactly the type of development that the near South Side would call for.
The amenities, yeah. Okay, switching gears a little bit. We were talking a little bit offline before we started the interview that you're focusing a lot on your personal brand right now. You've co-authored a international best-selling book with Sharon Lechter. That's amazing. Tell me a little bit about that. What's behind all of that? Why did you decide to jump into that? How did a young fella like yourself grab the ear of a very accomplished best-selling author? Tell us a little bit about that backstory.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an honor to have my book be an international bestseller right now. And so we have. It all started back in 2016. I was a nationally ranked competitive cyclist. I was top 10 in the nation, the state champion in New Mexico, youngest to ever win the Tour of the Gila. I had my eyes set on, going professional, going to the Olympics, going to the Tour de France, racing in Europe. And then January 23rd of 2016, I was on a training ride with my coach and my teammate, and I got hit by a car at 60 miles an hour. So I died on the scene, actually, and the officer reported it as a fatality, and I was in a coma for 2 weeks. By God's grace alone, I opened my eyes 2 weeks later, and I was paralyzed on my left side.
Yeah.
And so I was in the ICU for a month. I was on a medical flight, they flew me up to Craig Hospital in Denver, Colorado, which is where I learned how to live again as a 16-year-old, right? Learning how to walk again as a 16-year-old, and it's still in my mind. I knew that I was nationally ranked, but I had to struggle to press a button to have a nurse come roll me out of bed in the morning, So you encounter a lot of mental shifts in that type of situation. And one of those big mindset shifts that I had was what really truly held value, right? Because as I've said so many times before, tomorrow is never promised. So we need to make the most of today because our time is our most valuable asset, right? So we need to utilize our time, and create freedom of time because that is true wealth, right? So I'm very passionate about helping a younger generation, helping any aspiring and proactive entrepreneur of any age, right? Understand how to build multiple streams of income so that you can generate freedom of time and then leverage that time so that you create the person that you want to become and then utilize that to live the life that you're called to live, right? So my whole goal was to write a book about my accident. And that's why I reached out to Sharon Lechter. And then, of course, we could roll that into the business. And as soon as I reached out, within a day, her team got back to me and we set up our first call. And she was inspired by my story. And obviously, she could see the long vision of how we would be able to make this book such an impactful message to the audience, right? So then we started working, and she's my mentor, and we worked together to come up with this parable, right, to make it more relatable to the audience, because it's really hard to relate to a, internationally renowned cyclist who died at 16, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to make it more relatable to the audience, which we did. We created a parable about three brothers, right? One represents old wealth, one represents new wealth, and one represents true wealth. So the old wealth is the more tax advantaged, long-term wealth building strategies, right? So it's all great, and nothing wrong with it. It's real estate, right? I own some real estate, whole life insurance. Sometimes it's a little bit more hidden, right? So the offshore banking, the dynasty trusts, all of the long-term tax advantaged wealth building strategies, nothing wrong with it, right? But it's all about accumulation, right? And it's always about
time and duration.
Time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then the new wealth, right? New wealth is the more modern day, the flashy, right? Almost the get rich quick schemes, right? Kind of the crypto hype, and then the the people that are using their social media fame, they're driving their Bentleys, wearing a Rolex, just it's flashy. Nothing wrong with it, right? But there's something more, So true wealth is the perfect combination between the two of those, right? It's the perfect marriage between old and new, and it's leveraging those two to be able to create multiple streams of income, which provides you that freedom of time, and then utilizing your freedom of time to impact the world to your fullest capability, right? And to truly be a capitalist, to provide work for other people, to create value in a productive society, right? To increase productivity. That is true wealth, right? And so, this book, we launched it January 12th, which was 2 days ago. And within a day, we hit international bestseller lists. And it is such an incredible opportunity and accomplishment for us to be able to launch a really big book that's going to help reshape the understanding of wealth for a generation that maybe has lost purpose because they're always told so many opinions, right? Everyone's told so many opinions about what actually holds wealth. Is it just the real estate? Is it just the Rolex? Is it your stocks? Is it Wall Street? Or is it Main Street? Is it investing into real assets like on Main Street, investing into real assets which cash flow and create generational wealth?
Very, very cool. Well, congratulations on the book. Now, as we're wrapping up our conversation here, Nathan, we're at the beginning of 2026. You've launched your book. What other big plans do you have going on for this year?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. We have the personal brand launching, which is the True Wealth community. I'm really wanting to build a community of like-minded thinkers, right? Aspiring and proactive entrepreneurs that desire to build those multiple streams of income, and also hold yourself accountable, right, for every action that you're making, and making sure that you increase the productivity and the positivity around you. And so that's my passion, right? That's the mission of this book. I am working on this food truck development, as I told you, working on moving some assets around and creating more cash flow. I also just started a restoration business in DFW because of the fact that my townhomes were improperly developed, right? I saw the necessity for a restoration company, right? For, homes or businesses that have plumbing problems, structural damage, roof problems, right? I saw how the majority of the companies that I called on didn't have systems in place that would make them exceed, right? Make them profitable. And so I saw that, I guess how those companies were remiss and how to properly structure their systems. And I thought, you know what, we can build a company that beats that. So I'm in the process of structuring that company. We've brought in a lot of clients initially because there's such a need for it, So my focus this year is going to really be on structuring that business and the systems in place to assure that it serves the most amount of clients that we can, right? Because we have a fiduciary mindset for our clients, which is very different from a lot of these larger corporate restoration companies, And of course, bringing that same concept, right? Building those systems, that same concept into my real estate investments portfolio, into my family, into my businesses, and into more production for this book.
Fantastic. Nathan, if people want to connect with you, find out more, get the book, where's the number one place they can go?
Well, everything about me you can find at nathanbarkocy.com. So that's Nathan Barkocy, BARKOCY.com. And so there, all my socials will be there. If you want to invest with me, you can reach out there. If you want to learn more about my businesses, you can reach out there. If you want to buy the book, you can find it there. So nathanbarkocy.com is the best place to go.
Awesome. Nathan, congratulations. And thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Dave. It's such an honor to be with you.
All right. See you on the flip side, everybody.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com.